Hey everybody. Um, so I thought since we had a lot of reading to do that I thought I would try to do a video instead so that nobody had to read anything or necessarily look at anything. I just thought my response would be kind of as if we were working together in a group at a table. So I have my notes here and then I will try my best not to read off of them, although I have a couple of quotes that I want to read. So I'll go ahead and get started. So I read about Alfie Khons' Beyond Discipline, and kind of the big takeaway was that he criticizes other teaching and discipline methods that do things to students rather than involving students in partners as in the process. So, for example, the doing things to students would be like rewards or punishments. He pretty much attacks any discipline plan that involves a reward or a punishment. He says that nothing valuable comes from it. And in fact, that process is counterproductive because it only produces side effects within the students, such as like them not trusting you, avoiding you, and also other students that are only working for the reward and not necessarily anything that would help them learn or succeed in your classroom. So his Alfie Kohn's theory for teaching, he believes in the constructivist theory, which in summary is more or less that students don't actually learn from teachers, so they don't receive knowledge directly from us, but instead they have to construct it from their own experience. So in order for instruction to be effective, the students have to be involved in the topics that they're learning, and they have to decide that it's important to them. So this constructivist theory and what Kohn believes is that you have to develop a sense of community in the classroom. And if you do not have that sense of community, or if you do not have the students kind of buy into the topics, that the learning is not going to be purposeful and the students just aren't going to learn. So his discipline principle is based off of that constructivist theory for learning and teaching. So again, he does not believe in rewards or punishment. He also does not believe that the classroom should be compliant and quiet. So he doesn't want the students to be sitting there just quiet. He says that those types of students are not going to develop into the types of people that we want the students to become. Like I had said before, all other discipline programs that deal with threats or punishments or rewards are not good. That too many teachers rely on their class rules and rewarding students for behaving the way that the teacher thinks that they should. So when a student is rewarded or punished into doing something, they usually don't feel any commitment to what they're doing. This is his belief about why it's bad. And this goes back to the constructivist theory about how the students themselves have to be invested in learning. So by rewarding or punishing, they're not going to be committed to the learning. So they're not going to learn. He also believes in terms of the discipline program that, sorry, I got a phone call. Okay, so anyway, so I was saying that the students should make the rules, not the teachers, because he believes that the students behave better when they are not told what to do. So by having the opportunity to be responsible and making their own rules, the students end up behaving better. So ideally, he also says that students' growth towards kindness, happiness, self-fulfillment occurs when they work closely with other students. So in groups and activities and projects and that idea. And this goes back to his belief in the constructivist theory about creating the community within the classroom. So creating this community for the students to work essentially encourages the students to behave better. So the title of the article was Beyond Discipline. And so the idea is that you're not focusing on discipline, instead you're going beyond it and you're creating classroom management, classroom curriculum, which then leads the students to behave better. So this is where I'm going to quote. So he says that teachers who wish to move beyond discipline in the classroom must, 1, provide an engaging curriculum based on student interests, 2, develop a sense of community, And 3, draw students into meaningful decision making. So the end point is that the discipline is not about keeping order and maintaining quiet. Instead, it's about developing self-directed, responsible, and caring students. Um, so it's almost like you don't develop a discipline plan. Instead, you focus on the curriculum and the instruction. So how do you do this? So all of his ideas are based on the constructivist approach. So one, he believes that you need to take students seriously. So you have to essentially honor them as individuals, respect them so that they respect you, and that the students should lead their own learning. So students decide what topics to choose. Students decide what topics to explore and figure out how to make sense of them. It's not the teacher standing in front of the classroom saying, this is how it is. These are the facts. This is what you memorize. He also thinks that students need to make mistakes in order to learn. So, in the traditional classroom, if you're teaching these facts or these ideas and the students take an exam, essentially all they're doing is when they make a mistake, the answer is no, you lost points. That's not correct. But in his idea, they need to make mistakes in order to learn the material. So more projects, more activities, more group work, rather than exams, quizzes, that type of thing. The teachers don't tell the students the answers. This is another idea. Instead, the teachers guide the students. So point them in the right direction of a good source, or question them how to think deeper about a certain topic, and then let them go and find the answers to it. So he has 3 key facts about learning. And again, I'm going to quote this directly from the reading. So 1, students learn most avidly and have their best ideas when they get to choose which questions they want to explore. 2, all of us tend to be happiest and most effective when we have some say in what we're doing. And then 3, when student choice and control over learning is not allowed, the achievement drops. So to bring it back to discipline, the question isn't whether it's all right for students to act in disruptive ways, but rather, are they likely to do so if their teacher does not demand control and compliance, but instead emphasizes a curriculum that appeals to students? So ideally, you have this curriculum that the students are involved in, and they're then invested in, and then they're going to be more active learning, and then they will not behave badly. So Khon does believe in some structure and limits. So there's not just, kids running wild and there's no rules or limits, but he has some criteria to determine whether or not it's justified. So does it have a purpose? So is the rule to keep students safe, to keep them from harm, that type of thing. Another idea is restrictiveness. So not too restrictive. So you're not going to ask your students to be silent in the classroom. Instead, you're going to ask them to have quiet voices, that type of thing. So I'm going to post them in a Word document because I think it's there's 10 of them. I think it's worth looking over what his kind of justification for whether there's a structure or a limit is beneficial. So in the end, I have one more quote about his 10 suggestions for teachers that want to move beyond discipline. So that's what I'm also going to attach as part of the Word document. So how do you do this, right? So it seems like instead of creating discipline management plan, you're actually not doing that at all. So he has 10 suggestions for how to move into this idea of moving beyond discipline. So he says, for example, to figure out what is really going on, be willing to look beyond the concrete situation. Do not immediately identify the student as the sole source of the problem and letting yourself off of the hook. We should ask ourselves or the student or the class, what is really going on here? Can we do anything to help? And that you should try and sit down in a friendly way to see if you can come up with a plan that will resolve the problem. So that's kind of the idea. I am looking forward to reading about your types of discipline, and ask me any questions. If something did not make sense, please ask, and I'm happy to address it. Great, thanks.